COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Some to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people you go meet it up. Pass me the Congo, jump and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give you some. No weapon that form against you shall not prevail. And no man that rise against you. Shall never win, because I will conquer. No one will conquer. Yes, I will conquer. Conquer them. Come on, let's conquer. No one will conquer. Rise up and conquer. Conquer them. Thank you for the name.
Good morning, Grenada. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Cicero Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube. A very special good morning to you. Now, I'm only here with you for a very short moment. We want to bring to you live a press briefing that is happening on the Sister Isle of Carriacou. I'm just trying to verify here who the doctor is. There is a doctor that would be hosting, and I'll provide you with the name very soon, this press briefing. Now, I want to start off this morning on a very mellow note because I think emotions are already very, very high. As we heard last night, Jamaica would have reported their second case. Guyana would have reported a case as well of an individual, a 50-year-old woman, who would have died and then was tested positive for the coronavirus. We also have a case right next door in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then Cuba would have reported 3 cases. Now, all of these cases, as far as we know, are imported cases. So there has been no community transmission. And what we mean by community transmission is somebody within the community or within the island just transferring to other people in close proximity. So we've had no reports of community transmission in these places, and we are, of course, very grateful. All right. We've also had no cases of the virus being spread on the islands as well. As even though the cases were imported, no one has yet been reported to have contracted the virus on the islands. So that is something to note, keeps us hopeful, right? Of course, we want to give you your daily update. We have had so far 129,604 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Of that, we've had 4,749 deaths worldwide and 68,670 cases recovered. Now, remember, even though it says 1,229 cases worldwide, the number that we really need to focus on, and I keep stressing that, is the 56,185 active cases. All right? That is the number to focus on. Now, there are currently 125 countries and territories that currently have persons suffering with symptoms of the virus. The top countries being China, Italy, Iran, South Korea, Spain, Germany, France, and the USA. Okay, the USA currently, or as of this morning, has reported 1,364 cases of the virus. So please keep that in mind. It is time for us to start increasing our measures. And I'm not speaking about government or the Ministry of Health. I'm speaking about individuals. It is time for us to start increasing our measures. What are we doing as a people to protect ourselves? What are we doing as a people to ensure that we do not have community transmissions, all right? Or that we don't have a large number of community transmissions, all right? That is important to note. This morning I was listening to GBN to the Point, and on that program was the Mr. Andre Lewis, and he was representing the Trade Union Council, and he brought up some very good points for workers to consider, and I must say that I must commend him for going out there and encouraging his workers to practice the safe measures and encouraging his workers and reassuring them that the TUC will be there to support them. Must commend that. All right. Of course, it is important that in these times, all stakeholders, private and public sector stakeholders, meet with their workers, all right? Meet with your staff. Speak about measures. Don't just leave them to wonder what's going to happen. You must have a plan as a business place in place for an eventuality, all right? I know that today the private and public sector business community will be meeting, along with the unions, will be meeting with the minister, and they will be, of course, discussing measures, plans, implementations that they would have in place to deal with an onset of the virus. So we definitely want to take that into consideration. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Ms. Duncan.
Let me wait for you to take a seat and catch your breath. He's not here for very long, so we're not we're not getting excited. He's not here for very long. But as I said, increase your measures. Today, I know hand sanitizer is something that is very limited, so I want us to know that you can buy the afterburn. There's an aloe vera gel. It's an afterburn that they usually use when you get a sunburn and you want to soothe the area. You can use that and pour the mentholated spirits or Clark's Court or whatever it may be, over 70% of alcohol into that, and boom, you have your hand sanitizer.
Pour the mentholated spirits or rum.
Or rum.
You keep saying Clark's Court, so
Well,
you make
I mean,
people believe if they don't have Clark's Court, then they can't do it.
All right. So
Rum,
if any
alcohol.
as long as it's above 60-70%,
Yes,
then
please.
you know you use
And I
that.
have nothing against Clark's Court. I'm just wanting to make sure that the public understands alcohol.
Alcohol. All right. So that's important to note. And remember to reiterate to your children to practice these safety measures at school. Now, I must categorically state, and I hope everybody is listening, as of, what time is it now? 10:40, Thursday, the 12th of March, we have not recorded a case of the coronavirus. I will repeat, as of 10:40 a.m., the 12th of March, 2020, we have not recorded a case of the coronavirus. Now remember, this is a situation that will be tailored as time progresses. So it means that at 10:40, we may not have a case, but at 12 o'clock, something different may come out. It doesn't mean that anybody was hiding any information or that there's any secrecy. It just means that at the point in time of the announcement, there has been no reported cases. And I need people to know this because there were people calling on Shaggy this morning saying that they heard that there was a case in PT Martinique and all sorts of nonsense. We need to stop doing this. Stop creating unnecessary panic. Wait for your health officials. There is no possible way that your health officials is going to hide a case of the coronavirus from the public. It makes no sense. It benefits nobody. Just be smart. Think about it. They must report their case to CARFA, which is a Caribbean Public Health Authority. They must report a case to the World Health Organization. So there's no need for them to hide it. It benefits nobody. So I need us to be mindful of that and stop with the fear-mongering. We're not doing anybody any benefit by doing something like that. Now, good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Ms. Duncan. Good morning to your listeners out there. I know it's a little tense time, but I want to appeal to people to try and relax. Just try and relax. Take in the information. Listen to the experts and do what you are supposed to be doing. There's no need for panic. There's no need to be fearful. There's no need to allow your emotions to take charge. Use your intelligence. Calm. Remember, many times before we spoke about this issue On this very program, we spoke about leadership, we spoke about the people in the Ministry of Health, we spoke about the noise in the market not being the sale, but having the calm disposition and be able to take the rational decisions at the correct time. You're seeing how it is being played out now. As the threat gets closer to our home, as it gets closer, as our neighbors in our backyard are coming up and showing that there are cases, positive cases in the area, our leaders here are intensifying. And when I say leaders, I'm not just talking politicians. I'm talking about the people who has the responsibility to lead this fight. However, I must quickly indicate that we, every single individual, every parent, every family member, every community person, every single one of us do have an incredible, important role to play if we are to combat this virus successfully. We can do and say all that we want. The government can find several dozens of places as quarantine sites. We can have hundreds or thousands of beds to isolate anyone who may catch the disease. But if we, the virus, but if we do not manage it properly from an individual standpoint, we'd be making no sense. Yeah. If individuals who feel the symptoms, who feel that all of the signs and symptoms that they have advised us that will come on, and do not report properly, or do not take the necessary precautions, or follow the necessary procedures. So, for example, we have been advised, if you're coming down with a heavy fever, you're sneezing, you're coughing, you have the flu-like symptoms, don't rush into the emergency room, rush to the hospital, rush to the health center, but call the hotline number so that the correct authorities can come to find you. They can isolate you. They can test you. Because sometimes you exhibit all of those flu-like symptoms and what you have is just the influenza. We don't know the difference until you are being tested. I cannot test. It is the health authorities. So get in touch with them. Don't go out into the public and open up our mouth without practicing proper coughing and sneezing etiquette. Because in case what we have contracted is the virus, we can be spreading it. So it's about management and control. And who can manage and control it best? Us. Following the procedures and listening to the relevant authorities. Not creating fear and panic and having people jumping and running. This thing is not going to bite. It's going to affect us. How? By we touching contaminated surfaces, by we shaking hands with somebody who has the virus in their hands from sneezing or coughing, by we getting too close in conversation. Personal, now they're talking about keeping our what we call social distance. Yes? So we didn't keep our social distance. We got up into the person's space too much. They sneeze or they cough, the droplets get into our nose, our eyes, our mouth. That's how we catch it. We have to transport the virus. That is what must be known. So some people are talking about, oh, well, you can't isolate people in the hospital because the beds are going. If you have the proper screening, you can do it. Isolation can be done anyway. What transport the virus is touching, getting it onto our bodies, and then having that being placed in our mouth, our eyes, our nose. Yeah. That's how it gets into our lung and affect us. It is not airborne. That has been proven, scientifically proven. So if you sneeze in the air and someone wasn't within close proximity, they did not keep the safe distance from you, it stays in the atmosphere and then dies out. That's what we are told. However, if we sneeze on an object, a table, a chair, a railing, and then I touch that railing, I touch that chair, hence the reason why they say wash your hands as often as you can with soap and water for 20 to 25 minutes. Use hand sanitizers, an alcohol-based sanitizer if you are not in a place or in a position to wash. Because if we wash regularly and we have touched contaminated surfaces, we have shake hands with someone who, as a matter of fact, even the churches, they are advising people, well, let's get away from the shaking our hands and do the little bounce, the elbow thing, or as they say the Chinese started, we greet each other with our feet, all to avoid contact of the virus. Not breathing in. We don't breathe it in. It's not airborne. We, the individual, is the one who gets it into the body.
Yeah.
You touch, and then you touch eyes, you touch nose, you touch mouth, your face, it gets in. So let's listen to those things and practice it. These are the roles that we have to play. Forget about where the quarantine house is. That ain't important to you. What you want about quarantine house? You have to go there, you have to bring food, you're the transporter, you're the security. That is for the health officials to know, and they know. And they are going to deal with that. Wherever the isolation room is, you stop worrying about that. If you have to get there, the health officials will take you there. What you need to worry about and get and be factual about are the things that you and I must be doing. Let's start practicing them. Let's know them. Let's teach it to our children. Let's tell our friends, our neighbors. These are the things that we must do to protect ourselves from the coronavirus.
I listened to somebody this morning talking about the location of the isolation unit. Now, I want us to be very, very clear on the differences between the isolation and the quarantine. Now, isolation at the hospital, especially that, is only for an individual who requires hospital care in the event that they catch the coronavirus, have symptoms, and need intensive care. They are placed in that isolation room. Now, remember, the masks that are being worn by the infected person, and they have been saying that from the very beginning. Every infected person will be masked, and that is to ensure that when that person coughs or that person sneezes, that the virus is not caught in the air. All right? So that the nurses and the health officials that are taking care of them, that may need to come in close contact with them, will not be affected. Although they themselves will be adorned with masks and gloves and so on, other protective gears, the individual that is infected themselves will be masked. So this nonsense that people going around with now, talking about how there are windows and the air condition and the spaces in the door of the isolation room and the risk, we need to stop it and start thinking logically and start referring to information that we have been told before, factual information. And this is why the infected person is masked, so that they themselves do not sneeze into the atmosphere and that they themselves do not cough into the atmosphere.
But the atmosphere does nothing.
And it doesn't even contain the virus.
That they sneeze or cough on an object that you may touch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
So the hospital care is only for an individual in critical condition who requires hospital care. Or not even in critical condition, but may require that hospital care. So it's very important to note. In addition, I heard a lot of people making noise about us not having the capability to test. Now, let us also be clear. There are a lot of other Caribbean nations that do not have this capability. Dominica has the capability simply because they would have recently rebuilt their lab after their hurricane.
Yep.
So that was incorporated into the new lab. Trinidad has the capability to test simply because our Caribbean Public Health Organization is based in Trinidad.
And it's available to all.
And it's available to all. So our testing, until our PCR machine reaches on island, we do not have an exact date or time of that, but we know that it's coming. In the meantime, we are not left in limbo. We have the ability to send our results to CAFA in Trinidad and receive it back within 4 hours. This is what I'm being told. So please let us stop the fear mongering. Let us focus on the things that matters. How many of you have contacted your healthcare professionals in your community to report an elderly person or a shut-in that may need medical assistance if the case arises? Because the Ministry of Health has been asking for that. They have been asking that you go to your health centers and that you report the people who are sick in your community, elderly in your community.
Housebound, bedridden, those kind of people.
Even if you have somebody in your home, diabetic, pregnant, somebody that has cancer, you report that. So we know that these people are high risk. So they know that from the onset of a case in your community, they know these are the people we need to pay attention to. These are the people that we need to target. These are the things that we need to focus on and stop the fear-mongering. We've done enough of that. The virus is already too close for comfort. It is time for us to put the petty politics aside, to put the pointing of fingers aside, and for us to band together as Grenadians and help each other. We must do our part. We cannot continue along the lines of just sitting there and saying that the government isn't and that the health officials aren't. We cannot do that. We must sit and now say, I have done, or that I am doing, or I will help do. This is the language that we must now incorporate. The can'ts and the won'ts and the haven'ts must stop. And we must now focus on what we can and will do to prevent this virus. We don't know when it's going to come. In an hour from now, we could probably hear a report that there is a case. In 2 days from now, we can hear that there's a report of the case. In a month from now, we can hear that there is we just don't know. So we need to take the precautionary measures and do what we must do to keep our families and our people, by extension, safe. But further from that, Mr. Bola is not here in his capacity as my co-host. He is here in his capacity as the General Secretary of our party to share with us some very interesting information.
Well, thank you, Ms. Duncan, for recognizing the capacity in which I'm here. I'm happy for that. And thank you for allowing me that opportunity to be on your program. And it's simply to say to our listeners out there, and in particular to our members, that come Friday, the 13th of this month, which is this coming Friday, it would mark 2 years since the last general elections in Grenada. And what we have been doing as a party is not having any major rally or so, but we do celebrate in a very solemn way by going to church. So if one remembers, after 100 days in office, we did all congregate at the Tivoli RC Church, or the Sacred Heart RC in Tivoli, as it's been called, and worship with the members of church there, and ask and thank God for the opportunity to be of service to the Grenadian people once more, and for allowing us to have such a massive victory. And so when it was 1 year, we went to Labary, I think it was one of those places. I can't remember exactly.
It was Marianne.
Marianne, to be exact. To the Sanctuary of Praise Church, and there we celebrated again in the Southeast St. George constituency. And then we decided this year that we do not want to allow the thought to enter the minds of people that we only worship on Sundays. So we decided that we would worship on Saturday this year, which would have been the 14th, the Saturday immediately after. And we was carded to join the congregation at the Concord Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is in St. John's, where we have decided this year we'd have that church celebration. However, though, it's unfortunate, since COVID-19 is the master around now, seems to be the talk anywhere you go. Last night, every news channel I tuned in, from the Caribbean right up into the US, whether it was CNN, CBS, what have you. Every single one either was reporting or had a talk show, had some person inside speaking to the issue of coronavirus. I looked at a program, I think earlier on in the weekend, the 60 Minutes, which also I think comes on CBS. And there were some experts there that was giving some elaborate information and was saying that if left unchecked, if countries where it has already attacked, and the new ones that will be attacked doesn't follow the right procedure and doesn't do what they're supposed to do based on the procedures laid down, we can see probably 60% of the world population being affected by this virus. I hope we never get to that, because with 60% of the world population, it would amount to quite a number, millions people dying, especially those who already have underlying health issues, as we have seen and been told before. So out of the abundance of caution and the fact that now the WHO has agreed and said that this virus is now a pandemic, CARFA, which is our regional body or Caribbean public health agency, has advised, one of the advice that there's given is that we should reduce as much as we possibly can, amassing into large crowds, If we can stay in single units, it's better. Couple, well, maybe you can try. But the advice is that we should not be bringing mass crowd of people together and so forth. So the executive of our party, our national executive, has since yielded to that advice, and out of the abundance of caution, from that advice from CARFA, has decided that there would be a postponement to that church service. So whereas before the hope was to bring together all 15 constituencies and amass at that church there in Concord and to celebrate and give praise and thanks, we're saying to people, yes, we must still be thankful. We must still say to the Almighty Father, we are grateful for that opportunity, because, every time you get an opportunity to serve your people, which is what the Master expects of us, we have to be grateful and thankful. However, we're saying to people, stay in your own locality, whether you want to visit a local church where the numbers will be smaller, you want to stay at home with your family, a small group in a PD, want to assemble and pray, but not the really large groups. So out of the abundance of caution, like I say, the executive has decided not again for us to all congregate together at the Concord Seventh-day Adventist Church. So those who are hearing the message, you can pass it on. So that church service for Saturday, I don't think church is not cancelled in Concord. The NNP bringing the people out there to congregate is what we are cancelling. So please don't go and say, Mr. Bola said there'd be no church service on Saturday, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that where we were supposed as a party to gather and forces the numbers in large amongst the Concord 7, we no longer will be doing that. But of course, you are entitled to say, thank you, Lord. Go down on your knees with your family, with your neighbor, in your local church, and thank God, because we really need prayers at this time in every form, shape, and fashion. Not just to ask God to save us from coronavirus, but to continue to ask Him for His continued blessings and to give the wisdom, the knowledge, the skill, the patience to our leaders, those whom we have voted into office to lead on the affairs of this country, that they may continue to have that necessary ability so to do with His assistance. So that's basically what we want to see here. As time goes by and new developments take place, new advice is being given, we can revise what we have said and we can get back to you again and give you advice based on what the party has planned to do.
All right. Thank you so much. And of course, it is advisable, as you said, that there are no mass gatherings. And of course, this is meant to protect. It's not meant to say that there is a case or that we are expecting a case in the upcoming days. It's just caution.
Precautionary measure.
It's caution.
As it's been used before, out of the abundance of caution. Yes?
All
We
right.
want to use caution in an abundant way. And that's the reason why.
All right. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Bowler, for sharing that with us. I think it's important that people do make a special effort to go to their churches, their neighboring churches, and be thankful for all that has been done for us, and of course ask for a little mercy, a little grace, so we can, and a little wisdom.
Yep.
We need a little wisdom too.
Well, we should be doing that all the time,
Yeah.
Duncan. It's just that this is a special occasion.
Yes.
Because I hear a lot of people talking about we must pray, we must pray. We must pray all the time.
Yeah.
Every day, every time. Many times per day, we should pray. And prayer doesn't always mean having an hour-long conversation with God.
Yeah.
It could be just a sentence. It could be just a couple of words. It could just be you whispering or you're saying to Him wherever you are, wherever you sit, thank you, Lord, for the blessings of today. Thank you, Lord, for giving me life. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to live in a country as peaceful as Grenada. Thank you, Lord, for the people who manage this country. Whether you voted for them or not, the fact is what is being done is affecting every one of us in a positive way. And sometimes, too, we say to God, look, I believe something has been done that probably, in my opinion, in my spirit, doesn't seem right. I ask you, oh God, to touch the heart of those who has that responsibility. Give them the wisdom, give them the foresight. Because the Bible speaks about we praying for leaders, those in charge of our situation. Yes? And if we consider ourselves to be good Christian people, if we consider ourselves to be humanitarians and philanthropists, we must always look out for each other, because he says, whatsoever you do to the least of your brothers, that you have done unto me. And so sometimes I know people who are good church-going people who consider themselves as Christians, who feel that they have a close relationship with God, but because they doesn't like Prime Minister Mitchell or they are not a fan of the NNP, they don't ever say a word of prayer and asking God to continue to bless and thank him for what he has done for this country.
But we also have to remember it's mankind leading mankind,
Yes.
So you have to treat them with the same measure that you would treat yourself. You make a mistake, you have to forgive yourself and move on.
Yes. And ask God for forgiveness.
And ask God for forgiveness.
Yes.
And so too, they are human.
Yep.
They will make mistakes.
Yeah.
That is where our responsibility as a people comes in, to make sure that they not only take ownership, but that they follow the right path.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So, of course, we want to be grateful for what we have. We want to pray for more.
Yes.
You know?
For better.
For better.
And if we leave it in God's hand, whatever better means to him, I know he's merciful and he listens to his people, and of course, he will always want to do for us what's best for us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mr. Bowler, for being here. I know you had to run it, or I should keep you longer.
You can't really keep me, Duncan. You can ask me to stay longer.
Can I ask you to stay longer?
You can.
But you will refuse.
But I will make the decision. Definitely so. Definitely so. But thank you again, and I do hope that the message gets out there, that our listeners would pass on what they have heard. And I do really want to appeal to people, please, let us not just create fear and start talking about if this and if that. Let us listen to the authorities. Let us practice, because we have a very, very, very important role to play. And so whether this virus comes here or not, I really do hope it doesn't. But if it does, we play a critical role in how it will advance or if it will dissipate it immediately as it comes. It is how we treat it, how we deal with it, and whether or not we follow the protocols that has been laid down for us to follow. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Bowler, for sharing with us. We're going to take a short break, and then we will be back with some more information for you. Thank you for listening.
So we need to get the facts straight. How does this virus work? How does it transmit? Where does it want to go? And let's protect ourselves. I'm Dr. Peter Lynn. I'm a family physician in Toronto, Canada.
That's your business. All over the place.
The coronavirus is a family of viruses that can cause as mild things as just a common cold, all the way up to SARS or MERS. These are these bad pneumonias that we're talking about. And basically what these viruses are, they look like a tennis ball with all these spikes sticking out of it. And depending on the type of spike, it allows that virus to attach to certain places. So some viruses, they have the spike that attaches to your nose. So basically you just get a common cold. But the SARS virus and this new virus that we're talking about has the spike that allows it to attach to the cells in your lung. And when it attaches there, it puts in information to make photocopies of itself. So it uses our equipment to make more viruses.
I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern over the global outbreak of novel coronavirus.
Most of the coronaviruses live in animals. In this particular case, it was from Wuhan. There was a fish market where they were selling live animals. And the thought is that the virus was in a live animal, then it crossed into a human. But then what we found was that people were getting sick in terms of healthcare workers, in terms of family members that were looking after them, which now meant that the virus can pass from human to another human. Just like all viruses, it needs to reach a target, which is your lung. and it has to get there with your help. It has no feet and no wings, so therefore it needs us to move it there. So that's why we keep saying, don't hang around sneezy people because you're going to breathe it in, and don't touch your face because that's how the virus is going to get in. The masks are helpful, but they're not necessary because they're leaky. The ones that you and I buy basically have pockets here, so therefore the virus can get in. What the masks really do is they stop us from touching our face. If you're sick, we tend to mask you, so therefore you're not spewing out the viruses to other people sitting around you. The true people that have the real masks are the N95. Those are sealed. These are for the doctors that may be caring for their patients. So in the beginning, the coronavirus will cause kind of like flu-like symptoms or a cold. So people just get the stuffy nose, that kind of thing. But you'll understand that as soon as that virus starts manufacturing in your lung cells, they're producing all these copies of the virus, all of a sudden now you kill the lung cells. So now you can't exchange oxygen. And that's why one of the early symptoms is people get very short of breath and they tend to have a difficult time breathing, and that's why they end up in hospital. So currently, unfortunately, we don't have a direct treatment for the coronavirus. So we don't have a medication that can kill it off. And so it's really supportive. So in other words, the patient can't breathe, we give them oxygen, help them to breathe. They can't drink, so therefore we give them fluids to support them. Their kidneys begin to shut down, we help them with all those things. So it's a very supportive process. This is a new virus that we've never seen before. So our immune system, our army, are having a hard time figuring out what to do. So usually what we have to do is we make something called antibodies. So these are things that can grab onto the spikes that we see on the virus, and it will get rid of the virus for you, and that will actually bring you back to good health. So therefore the elderly may have a worse outcome, and of course the young children. So the babies, their immune system is not so good either, so they may not make those antibodies as well. So just remember, your hands may be with virus. Virus cannot hurt you because it can't get through the skin, but the moment I do this, now I've brought the virus right to where it wants to go. So let's remember not to touch our hands to our face. So let's say you think that you might have been on a plane or you might have bumped into somebody that has it. What should you do? So the first thing is to contact a healthcare worker to tell them that potentially you have it. If you're feeling symptoms and you're going to go into a facility, call ahead. Okay, so whether you're calling the paramedics or whether you're calling the hospital or your doctor, just mention that you were on a flight. If you don't have any symptoms, then what we do is a little bit of a self-quarantine. In other words, we can just keep you away from other people, and so you don't go into parties, don't go with your friends, don't go into public transportation. So we can contain it very easily by making sure that you do a self-confinement, so to speak, for the, let's say, 7 to 14 days is the longest incubation time. So after that, if you're feeling well, then you don't have anything to worry about. So if we get the facts right, then we don't have to be overly worried, but we do the right things so that we don't get the virus ourselves and that we don't pass it on to others. And if we look after each other in this way, this virus will have nowhere to go. It needs us to move it, it needs us to make copies for it, and if we don't help it, then the virus will stop. So we have the power to do that right now.
All right, and we are back, and I hope you guys were listening. That was a very informative infomercial. We need to, and it's a difficult thing, because I catch myself doing it all the time, not touch our faces. Now, the mere fact that you tell me not to touch my face makes me want to do it more, but we have to resist the urge and continue resisting the urge to touch our faces. But like the infomercial said, the virus needs us to move. The virus needs us to move, which means that if you and I are doing what we are supposed to do, if we are keeping our social distance, if we are sanitizing our surfaces, if we are washing our hands regularly, if we are sanitizing our hands regularly, if we are not shaking hands and hugging. I know it's a difficult thing to say because a lot of us are huggers. A lot of us like to greet people with a hug or greet people with a handshake. If we aren't doing any of these things, then our chances of contracting the virus is very small. All right? Which means that lessens the chance of community transmission, which means that we have a greater chance of managing this virus. I hope you all are listening, because in actuality, it's us that will be responsible for the spread, you know. So we must do everything in our power to ensure that we do the right things. And as we say, what are the right things? Wash your hands regularly. Soap and water. 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Take your vitamins, take your minerals, eat your fruits, eat your vegetables. Drink water. I know a lot of us have a hard time drinking water. Sometimes me included. The most I drink water is here on the program. It's difficult for me to just sit down and drink a bottle of water. But we have to do it. We have to force ourselves. It is important. You know, we must do our part. The time for pointing fingers has passed. The time for casting blame has passed. The cases in Jamaica, the cases in Guyana, the case in St. Vincent, these were all nationals that returned home. You can't refuse a national. And it just goes to show that the measures that we are taking, no matter how great, just isn't enough. It will, at some point, reach our shores. For me to sit here and tell you maybe, for me to sit here and tell you if, would be me trying to water the situation, would be me trying to lend false hope. I'm not in the business of doing that. Let's be real. It is only a matter of time until we record a case. When that time will be, we cannot say. But we must not be caught off guard. The same energies and efforts that you are putting into pointing fingers, you must now transfer that energy and those efforts into ensuring that you are doing what you need to do to protect yourselves, your families, and the people in your community. Because if I am doing the right thing and you are not, I am just as much at risk as you are. Somebody gave me a joke the other day. They said, if you go in the pharmacy and you buy out all of the hand sanitizer, you're not really protecting yourself, you know. Because it means that there are people out there who did not have access to hand sanitizer because you bought all. So don't go out there just buying everything in bulk and leaving none for anybody else. You must be mindful that there are other people that want to wash and sanitize their hands too. So, be cautious, but use wisdom in your decisions. Right? Somebody is writing here for me, young children and elderly are most at risk. That information was helpful. Can we get it for ourselves, please? Can you make it into a video and post it? Naz, could we copy the link from YouTube and post it in the chat? That get your facts with the doctor. It's on YouTube. It is on YouTube. I'll try to get the video and have it posted in the chat here so you can look at it. You can also go on YouTube and try to find it as well. But there are a lot like it. And they all have the same message. Preparation. Prepare yourself. Grenada is not different from any other nation in the world. And everybody else is speaking preparedness. Grenadians speaking, government of Grenada lying to us. Or government of Grenada ain't doing enough. That's not the message that you want to get out there now. The message that you want to get out there is that you are preparing. You're preparing your families. You're preparing your children. You're preparing. How many of you, when your children were leaving the house this morning, you gave them a little pep talk and reminded them of what is happening? I did. My children are probably fed up with me by now. I see it in their faces every time I say, guys, let's have a chat. Like this morning. But it's necessary. Let them get tired enough that the information becomes second nature, so that they know it, that they know what to do. This is what we need to focus our efforts on. Guys, our lines are open for calls. You can call at 440-7377 for local calls, 347-329-3101 if you're in the diaspora and you'd like to call. But in addition to that, if you would like to leave us a message on the live video, or of course, if you'd like to leave us a message on the WhatsApp, you can do that as well. We'll be happy to relay your messages. All right, we have our first caller on the line for the morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my darling. Good morning, my baby.
Good morning, Miss Jacob.
How you do?
I'm good.
Oh, gosh, today is World Kidney Day.
It is.
And then I have a wonderful brother by another mother who got me 2 kidney gone, eh? 2 kidney gone, you know. And he there on the bed. Well, this morning I called those people in JB and the lady that, what was she name again, boy? Miss, the head of the kidney foundation.
Mm-hmm.
The head of the kidney foundation. You know she name?
No, I'm not aware.
Right. I call her and I give her his number. And then I had to reach back out to him to see if she come. His name is Desmond. He living in Apoetut. Oh boy. Girl, that poor little young man does have a lot of pain, eh? Oh boy.
Miss Jacob, what are you doing to prepare yourself and to keep yourself safe in the onset of the coronavirus?
The coronavirus? Girl, I'm doing it as normal. Because these things we waited long, so I prepare for our coming.
All right. That's all we need to know, that you are preparing.
Eh?
I say that's all we need to know, that you are preparing.
Yes, eat me fruits. And the best thing to use is lemon. The lemon is the best. The lemon is the best. And you have to keep yourself clean. Wash your hand. Help out. I have a wonderful neighbor. I'll give it to the to your lady and the desk, the front desk. What is she name again? Eh?
You gave it to her,
I tell her. I had a friend. She is 85 years. And she come down with some fever, cough in 2 days. And so I call her and I tell her. And I get in touch with the nurse up here. And the nurse go and look for her. But the nurse tell me she's feeling a little better now. And I talked to her this morning. She tell me she's all right. Tell me she's all right. The fever though, and I again.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling, Miss Jacob. You have a wonderful day.
Yes, and then you have a wonderful day. God bless you. Watch, I want you to tell me many stuff for me. Give me a phone call, please, because my phone, you know, my phone is so active. I can't get them in the office, you know. Anything I have to do, I have to come with headquarters.
All right.
Yes, and I will talk to you after your program. We'll see about where you're going for 1 o'clock.
I'll be here, Miss Jacob.
Okay. All right, sweetheart.
You too.
Love you. Baby.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So preparation. And remember that there is a flu that is going around as well. Now, the symptoms of the flu and the symptoms of the coronavirus are kind of similar, but they do have their differences. So we must be educated of what both symptoms entail and be able to differentiate between the two. All right? We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hey, morning, Duncan.
Hi, morning.
How's everything?
Can you lower your radio in the background, please? There's a feedback.
Okay.
All right. And remember, if we do or when I should say, we do have a case. Now remember, each response is tailored to how the virus is spread or received. So for example, if we import a case, we may have a case of the coronavirus where somebody would have come into the country. That person would have been in quarantine and started developing symptoms. Of course, we know that this person is already quarantined, so we need not worry. We must be cautious, but we need not worry. However, if you have an individual in your home that would have recently returned and started developing symptoms that are similar to the coronavirus, we know what the right thing to do is. Don't walk into a health center. Don't run up in the hospital and ball, see what you all you do. Look, the person, look, he's sick now. No. That's not what we do. You call ahead. There are listed health centers in every constituency. And what I'll try to do so I can provide you with the information tomorrow is get a list of all of the names of those health centers, right? So that you can call ahead. I want to repeat myself. Call ahead. Or if I'm not able to get the list of names, which I don't think might happen, there is a hotline. Call the hotline and they will advise you on where you should go and what you should do. It is important because this will limit the risk of community transmission. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Yeah. This morning I was listening to another radio station, in fact, GVM, and Mr. Andrew Lewis from the TUC was on the program. And he made mention of an item of news that we heard either this morning or earlier in the week,
right,
where the Minister of Health says or said that the Ministry of Health, or he, the Minister, would have met with the TUC, and he was denied. This is totally not true, and what have you, and so on. And in addition to this, he said many things, and I know Andre because we work. When I work, I wasn't employed with him with TAU, but I was on the management committee for 2 years during a period of time. And Andre was a young person coming from Grenada at the time, so we worked together in TAU. And I think Andre is well intended, but at the same time, I heard him say a number of things on the radio this morning. And I question whether we have been listening to the many communiques that came from the Ministry of Health and the government, whether we have been listening to the scientists, to the medical experts or doctors, Dr. Martin, Dr. Mitchell, and others. I think it's the communication officer in the Ministry of Health, the minister himself, the Prime Minister, and many. I mean, a lot of information was provided to us. A lot of information is given to us.
Yes.
And I believe, hello?
Yes.
Yes, we have a responsibility to take heed of some of the things that we are told. We might never be able to prevent the coronavirus because countries, fan-wide, it seems to be spreading fan-wide. It becomes now a pandemic. But when we are calling on the government to provide and supply everything to us, for us, and if the government is in a position to do that, it's okay, fine, right? Because the government is there to serve the people. But we got to be realistic. We have to be real. Because I heard he was asking for the provision of some things, I think gloves, maybe pens, or there shouldn't be any exchange of pens, a number of things he said. But a caller called and she was, because earlier in the week, I think it was Tuesday, the NDC representative on the same to the point, one, Mrs. Claudia Joseph, used to make a lot of irresponsible statements, from time to time, and broad statements, a lot of broad, unsubstantiated statements. But she made mention about her concern with the isolation unit at the hospital, the proximity of it to the pediatric and the maternity ward, something like that. So this morning somebody called and they was raising maybe similar concern because, when one person raised something, especially a politician, others would follow.
Yeah.
So she was, based on what the doctor said yesterday, in terms of because of how the virus is spread, he didn't see any threat, that being a problem where the isolation unit is located at the hospital at present. But Andrew said to the caller that, but sometimes you don't always have to look at the science. You have to look at the psychology. and the psychological effect that it could have on the people. And I agree with that. But equally and more devastating is the misinformation that has been spread, and the fear, right, and the panic that has been instilled, or the attempt to instill this in people, you know, and so on. And I'm very concerned, and I wonder, where are we going? It's like we're spinning top in mud. This is a situation where we all have to get on board and come together and work with the powers that be, work with the authority, work with the government, and to see how much we could try to, if or when we have a case or cases, how we could try to contain it. Do we expect politicians or the powers that be to come in our homes, and help bathe us, help keep our environment clean, tell us what food to prepare our meals for us, and tell us? I mean, we have been provided with this information over and over and over, and we must be honest to ourselves, and we must not try to make gains out of certain situations, out of such unfortunate situations. From time to time, we piggyback, and the opposition politicians are key, and they are very guilty of that. They piggyback on things that they know are not realistic, not true, not totally true, not so. But because it's convenient for them, because it's politically expedient for them to do so, they will just jump on the bandwagon. You know, come on, people. I want our people to wake up and smell the coffee, and let us do what we can do to see how we can contain this virus if it reaches here. You know, because people went about, another thing is that, and I must mention that, because people went about stigmatizing and discriminating against the Chinese. I think it's totally unfair to them. For example, some of the cases that are occurring now in the Caribbean, right, and even in Central America, and even in Africa, there was no direct flight based on the information I had from China. They came from other countries and went to these countries, and that, you know, and so on, and that kind of thing. So we have to be careful, and there's a lot of information available. Apart from what our local authorities are providing, you have the WHO website, and you have the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and so on. But there are some of us who are not interested in the truth. We delight in misinformation, in propaganda, in spite, in hatred, in bitterness, and that kind of thing. Another thing is that the NDC representative on the program earlier in the week, she spoke about Grenada and the way she decried the government and Dr. Mitchell and Mr. Bowen in particular. And it, you know, that he had taken me aback a bit, you know, and said it's amazing. How could one who is vying, right, to become a politician, well, who is a politician and who is vying to hold an office, a ministry, is saying to the Grenadian public that the decision by the government to look at the regulations, the new proposals, the drafts and so on in respect to the generation and supply of electricity and the cost is a vendetta, is a personal vendetta between the Prime Minister Gregory Bowen and Grenada management. Can you imagine this? You know, such irresponsible behavior and so on. So I received a letter because when I say shares, peanuts in Grenada. So a couple of days ago I received a letter from Grenada, and they were saying they were concerned about the draft proposals and how it could affect Grenada and we ordinary shareholders and that kind of thing, you know. And there is a number of concerns, a number of issues. But I say, I'm looking forward towards the consultation that I heard about that will be taking place in respect to that. And I believe that this thing is not the draft and whatever the proposals and so on. We're looking at the act. Is meant really to benefit our people. I cannot see why there should be any personal vendetta, but when a politician would come out and give the people that kind of impression, it gets to me, jumps at me. I thank you very much.
You're welcome, caller. Very in-depth contribution. Of course, he would have touched on a lot of things. Something I do want to note. As I do commend Andrew Lewis for going this morning and speaking about the trade union, his main goal and purpose this morning was not to say what the trade union plans to do for the workers in the amidst this troubling situation. It was basically to point out that he thought that the minister was lying. Now, let me clarify, because I did my research. Of course, I would never come and give you any misinformation. Here are the facts. The minister had a press conference, or there was a news piece done on him last night, in which he would have mentioned that stakeholders from the Ministry of Health would have met with the TUC. Those were his words. He said that he would have received the minutes from that meeting, that it was fruitful, and that the reports that he would have received, and these are words that he would have used, that he would have received would have stated that it was a fruitful meeting. Now, keeping in mind that the man is human, however you may feel about him in his professional position is different. Now, here are the facts. The only thing wrong with that is that the minister said TUC instead of PWU. Now, mind you, the Ministry of Health, a delegation of 4, would have met with the Public Workers Union, represented by a delegation of 2, to speak about the current situation with their workers. Now, keeping in mind that their workers, the majority of them are frontline workers, nurses, doctors. So we have to be mindful. And I laugh at this because had the minister not said that, we would not have heard from them. Had the minister not made that blunder, we would not have heard a word from the Trade Union Council. They would have said nothing. Now, the reason, from my understanding, that there was not a specific meeting with the Trade Union Council is that a meeting was already pre-scheduled for today. All unions and the business community is meeting with the minister, and I believe Minister Gregory Boeing, today. So this is why a meeting was not held with the Trade Union Council. But seeing the importance of meeting with the Public Workers Union, because their workers are on the front line, a separate meeting last week was held. So the only difference in what the minister was saying, he wasn't lying. And you see, we have to stop it. So now every time we turn on our TV and we hear that the minister is on there, all we want to do is point out things that we think he said that is a lie. So we don't even listen to the message anymore. And that is a big problem. So the minister did not lie. There was a meeting with the Public Workers Union. It was not a meeting with the TUC. That was the only blunder. How many of us has mixed up acronyms before? They didn't even give the minister an opportunity or a chance to correct himself. Where is the investigative journalism where you're supposed to find out? Before you go out there and you make all these pronouncements about the minister. It is very, very disturbing. So had the minister not said, or the newscast not carry that the minister said that, we would not have heard from the Trade Union Council. They would have gone to the meeting today quietly, raised their questions of concern, and everything would have been peaches and cream. So you can clearly identify the political sting in this. The reasoning behind doing it. Because he himself said that the reason I am here this morning is to inform the public that the minister did not meet with the Trade Union Council as he said yesterday. He did not even go further to note that the minister met with the Public Workers Union concerning the frontline workers. He didn't go further to say that. He left everybody with the impression that no meeting was held and that all of the workers were left in limbo. We don't do that kind of thing. It's not responsible. And the minister himself does not have to meet with you. This is the reason why there are people employed in the public service, so they can carry out these meetings and they can carry out these measures. And they can carry out this. From what I understand, the chief medical officer was at that meeting, Dr. Francis Martin. The chief communication officer, Kevin Frederick, was at that meeting. The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health was at that meeting. Well, what the minister go in there and say? What would he say? when all of the experts, all of the people with the information are present. I don't understand. Why are we doing this? Why are we creating problems where there are none? Why are we taking away the focus from the fact that all measures that can be taken have been taken and are continuing? Why are we not taking note of the fact that we ourselves must be responsible? So had the minister not said that, then the workers would not know that they could rely on the Trade Union Council to get supplies. Because that's what he said, that they would pull out all the stops. They would use every effort. So had the minister not made that blunder, we would not hear from them. So we know what the agenda is. And sometimes when you know the information, you have to call and shut some of these things down. You know? Because it's an irresponsible thing to do to the people of Grenada. To let them believe that the minister does not care about the well-being of the workers, when that is far from the truth. I am not pleased to have to call out people like this. It doesn't bring me joy to have to sit here all day and refute negative statements. But somebody has to speak the truth. You know, everybody these days running around talking about, oh, once they get a little piece of information, they feel it's some truth. So they run in and do a live video, and they run in and do a Facebook post and talking about they speaking the truth when they have no facts. And just speaking based on emotion. And just feeding into the opposition's political agenda. We have to stop it. Now is not the time for that nonsense. Now is not the time for that petty child's play. Now is the time for action. Get on your feet and say what you are going to do to help. So you want to go have a whole hour of radio time to say that the minister didn't meet with TUC. But you spent that time saying that, and you did not spend time saying that he met with the Public Workers Union in the benefit of the frontline workers who are right there dealing with this thing firsthand. You did not say that. You did not go further to say that a meeting was already scheduled for you to for the unions and the business people to meet with the minister today. And there you may be able to clarify your information. But you went on public radio and public TV and give people the impression that our Minister of Health is lying. How irresponsible is that? When will we stop this fear-mongering, this pandemonium, this hate building just to get a few votes? When will it stop? We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
My name is Duncan. How you doing? Well, I'm sitting here and listening to you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Miss Duncan, are you telling our energy? Reaching every day. I say good morning to Mr. Watt in the United States and his family, and to Patty in Canada, and Zingo, and Mr. Deputy. Y'all take care of ourselves, and fear not, God is in charge. Mr. Duncan, back to Grenada. Everybody had a fear. They're scared of this, whatever it is that's coming in Grenada. They don't have to fear. Because man does get on, they calling it Michelle all kind of things. And you see that creating the virus. I worked with Donald Trump, the President of the United States last night, with a fear on his face. Over the week, I listening to them on CNN and BBC News. Right? And in Grenada, so much of the politicians, all the opposition and other Grenadian leaders that in the union and them things getting on. None of them come and say, well, okay, as Grenadians, let we put our hands together with the present government and try to help with people. You know what I hear them talking about? They don't do this, they don't do that. I said, a hypocrite people. A bunch of hypocrite people in this country here.
every Grenadian are sick and are tired and listening to that every day. There's nothing nobody could do. Almighty God is in charge. Grenadians and people all over the world. Almighty God is in charge. You know what I say? I don't protect some of you are going in the week and in university to use these words. God is in charge. All you mustn't fear, not know. All who preaching the word of God. All you worshiping material things. All you have nothing nice to say about nobody. Making hypocrites about one another. No. Some leg in the world. Everybody says do this, do that. And are you scared? Scared. Though not scared. I am not scared because I know the God I serve. I know that. I don't have to run the mouth about nobody. And go on the radio and play nice and talk nice. I come here.
Yep.
And I see what's going on out hearing. So I don't want to I don't have to scared. They could do all what they have to do. And if they have to hit me there, God forbid.
Yeah.
God forbid. And you mustn't scared. Stop saying the things all you say. You know how much Grenadians that has run them out, and that poor Prime Minister, my God. The Prime Minister put some of them in ministry as permanent secretary to do their job. They do their work, and then they're giving him blows. Or you don't have to tell about nothing. Don't want to be afraid. Don't afraid. What has to happen will happen. What has to happen will happen. When I ask for some sand, you know what they say? Share money. Don't give me some sand. But are you giving all that? So I don't have to scare about nothing. And you can't pray now. Because God cannot hear some of your prayers. God not listening to all you. It's too late. Have a good day, Grenada. And party all you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cami, for your contribution. A very emotional, heartfelt contribution. You know? I really wish that we'd be more responsible as a people, and if our leaders, if the people that hold these positions, the president of the TUC Council, Trade Union Council, and all these people are not responsible, then who are they to judge the responsibility of the government? You see what I'm saying? So we have to be mindful of these things. You know, he even went further to call it a rally. I didn't know they was having a rally today. I need to go and get my flag and join. Naz, you knew they were having a rally today? I didn't know that. I thought it was a meeting of the business partners. You see, that's where their mind is at. That everything must be a rally, a mass gathering, a protest. That is not what it is. It is a meeting of the stakeholders to see what best can be done for the workers. In addition to that, when would the TUC come out and say, well, our workers are paying X amount monthly? One union receives about $800 and something thousand dollars a year. We could take a couple $100,000 out of that and help pump it into getting, I don't know, gloves, sanitizers, whatever it may be. You have not done that, but your purpose this morning. So eloquently state that the government or that the minister did not speak with the TUC Council. Nothing else. So had he not done that, we would not be hearing from you. We would not hear what the money is for. So the money that is spent in the trade unions are to have Mayday rallies only? Maybe. Because nothing of benefit else comes out of it. You pay every month for your membership fees. One union alone amounts to $800,000+ a year. And in the onset of a virus, where you have an ability to help in some financial way or another, the only thing that makes you speak is politics. How disappointing is that? We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Duncan.
Morning.
How are everything? Yeah, Duncan, tomorrow is going to be 2 years since the last election, 2018. And I want to say congratulations to this government for the amount of development and progress they have continued to demonstrate towards the Grenadian people. Because when you look through the island, you go see.
Hello, caller.
Developing the people, and this government continue to demonstrate a care and love for the Grenadian people. And today, Grenada is a shining light for the other countries in the Caribbean to follow. Because when you have a leader in the commission who knows how to solve problems and who knows how to bring development and progress to a country to make the Grenadian people more better, I want to say this government continue to do what you elect them to do and to bring betterment and development for the Grenadian and Carriacou people. Duncan, have a wonderful day. God bless you.
You too, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. So, guys, let us do what we know we are supposed to do. Let us move away from the blame game. Let us speak to our children. Reiterate the importance. And this is not only for now. Every year in October, November, it's the flu season. So, this year is Corona. Next year or the following year might be something else. Are we going to go through the same thing every time? Are we not going to continue these measures? Are we not going to practice our cough and sneeze etiquettes daily? You know? We have to be mindful. We have to. On the live, someone is asking if they think that they are exposed to the corona, what is the very first thing to do? And what are the items we should have to start? Very good question. We don't know what the effects of this virus, what the long-term effects of the virus are. We can guess, we can speculate. We know that it will have a very strong economic impact. We know it will have an impact on production and trade. And we are a net import country. So with these things in mind, you want to make sure that you stock up on things that you would use daily. Necessities. Necessities. Ms. Duncan is not saying go to all of the supermarkets and clean out the shelves. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying get your necessities, your medications. Those of you who are taking medication that you are dependent on, you need to ensure that you get those. Your insulins, your hypertensive medication, whatever medication it may be, you want to make sure that you get those. Because we don't know what impact this will have on trade. We don't know which sectors it will impact. So you want to make sure that you do that. But in the event that you think or that you believe that you have the virus, the first thing to do is to isolate yourself. All right? And that's where home isolation comes in. You remove yourself from the environment where there are other people. It could be your bedroom, it could be the bathroom, whatever it may be. And this goes for any virus, the common cold, influenza, whatever it may be. You isolate yourself to basically lessen the chances of transmission. All right? You want to do that. Then you want to call the emergency hotline. And I believe it's 53-virus, right, Nazim? 53-virus. Okay? And the medical professionals at the other end will tell you your next step. Now remember, 80% of the persons receiving the virus will pass it off as a flu. All right? Because remember, we're looking at 100,000+ people in the world that has the virus. It could have been much more, but most people would pass it off as the flu and recover. Remember that. Now, they will advise on what is best for you to do. whether you need to visit the designated health center that they have in your community or your constituency, and then they move from there. But please, if you believe that you have been exposed to the virus, don't go walking into a public health center or walking into the hospital. Contact the hotline. And then make sure while all of this is happening, in your mind you are saying, okay, well, I went here, I went there, and I spoke to this person, I spoke to that person. So you are making your mapping in your mind the possible or the possibilities of transmission. Let us be mindful. Let us remember these things. So much information has been given to us thus far that by now we should all be so versed on it. If somebody asks us a question, we should be able to answer. Because information has been fed to us internationally, locally, from the very beginning. So we can't say we don't know. We know. We are aware. So let us behave like we know and behave like we are aware and do what we are supposed to do. Some of you may have persons in your home that is hypertensive, that may have asthma, that may have a heart condition. You want to report this to your nearest health center because they are building a database in every community of persons who are high risk. Not because you are an elderly person mean you're high risk, eh? Not because. But you have to be mindful that if you have any underlying conditions, diabetes, kidney problems, if you are a smoker, all of these things make you high risk. So please, if you know of anybody in your community, your neighbor, your auntie, your uncle, your sister, your best friend, whoever it is, report it so that attention can be given to these people. We'll take our last call for the morning. Good morning, caller.
Miss Duncan.
Hi, Miss Cammy.
I wonder if NDC was in power right now instead of if they could do better.
Well, we never know.
I wonder if they was in power, NDC, if they would have do better than what this government doing now. And these people getting there and speaking as if they could have fixed what's going on in the world today. What a bunch of hypocrite people, my God. What a bunch of hypocrite people. Miss Claudette and all you, as Grenadians, all you want to be leaders, and all you not come down the airways and speak to say that we put our heart and our hands together to work to better what's going on out here. All you come talking that, watch, what I don't want to say on the radio, eh? They will lock me up. What a bunch of hypocrites
Don't let them lock you up, Miss Cammy.
and Grenadians. All you have to stop that. All you have to stop this behavior. Because people in the world listening all you, eh? All you want to say? People listening all you. Right.
Thanks,
and don't
Miss
trust me.
Cammy.
I have to stop that. What are you talking about elderly people? To help old people. There is old people in the home that need help. Are you talking about that?
Yeah.
Encourage people what to eat.
Yep.
What to eat and drink right now.
Yeah.
I don't understand all the people and them. All right, you care about all yourself. There is old people that is bedridden that need help. People living at peace. You're telling you never good money in a long time. Are you stop that? Don't further. Have a good day.
You too, Miss Cammy. I know that gets you riled up, Miss Cammy, but don't let them make you say nothing wrong, you know. Don't do it. It's not worth it, huh? It's not worth it. But guys, let's do our part. Let's do what we're supposed to do. Let's follow the protocol. Now is the time for us to know the protocol like the back of our hands. We should not be asking questions. Now is not the time for that. Now is the time for us to be executing, because all of the information has been given to us. So the questioning phase of what to do has gone. Now it is time for implementation. Let us do what we know we are supposed to do. Let us teach it to our children. Let us ensure that, as Ms. Cammy said, that the elderly people in our community are equipped to deal with the situation at hand. Let's do our part. Let's be wise. Let's be thoughtful. Let's have faith. Just a little. And it's going to take us a long way. We need to all play an important role in ensuring that there is no community transmission. Because that is what we need to worry about. We don't need to worry about a case coming in from the US and being quarantined. That's not our concern. Our concern is community transmission. What does that mean? It means person to person on island. That's our biggest concern. Let us try to control that. Let us try to manage that. Our parents putting plans in place in the event schools need to be closed. Where are your children going to be in the event that this becomes a possibility? Are you storing water? Are you stocking on your supplies? Are you taking the necessary measures to help fight against the spread of COVID-19? And if you are not, it's time to start thinking. But don't take too long to think. The action is what matters. It's always a pleasure speaking with you guys. In whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. I always love talking with you. I don't ever want to be talking about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Carriacou puts plans in place to effectively tackle COVID-19. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, March 11th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Carriacou is putting plans in place to deal with the novel coronavirus COVID-19, which was on Wednesday labeled a pandemic by the World Health Organization. During her first quarterly press briefing for the year, Minister for Carriacou and Petit Martinique Affairs, Honorable Kindra Mathurin-Stewart, said Carriacou is formulating a preparedness plan to ensure the safety and well-being of its residents. Minister Mathurin-Stewart said facilities in Carriacou have been retrofitted to accommodate isolation and quarantine units. Work has been done on facilities in Petit Martinique for the same purpose.
From since early January, even before the assessment risk were upgraded, we in Carriacou were able to identify facilities and buildings to be used for quarantine and for isolation purposes, should the need so arise. Immediately after those meetings, the Ministry of Carriacou and Petit Martinique Affairs effected the required repairs and renovations to the buildings and facilities that were identified, making them now fit and ready for the intended purpose.
She announced that surveillance has been heightened and all ports of entry except the Tyrrell Bay Marina has been closed.
We have worked and continue to work with the Immigration Department, Customs Department, Police, and the MPA to ensure that all requisite checks are done and that visitors coming in, whether via yachts or small craft, small vessels, are cleared in accordance with the proper procedure and practices. The police have also heightened their surveillance around possible points of entry, especially on the island of Petit Martinique. As it is currently now, the only point of entry in operation in Carriacou and Petit Martinique is at the Tyrrell Bay port. All other points of entry are closed.
The representative for the sister isle of Carriacou and Petit Martinique called on all residents to act responsibly, pay attention to credible news sources and the facts.
This concern must be tempered with reason, with good judgment, and of course with patience. Our emphasis should and must be on facts and not fear. As such, we are to listen to credible news sources and to the information that is being disseminated by government officials. These information or the sources of information are accurate and it presents the true state of affairs as it relates to Carriacou, Grenada, and Petit Martinique.
Frontline personnel in Carriacou were recently trained by representatives from the Ministry of Health. Health Minister says Grenada will not concern itself about one's purpose of travel, but will instead focus on his travel history. Honorable Nicholas Steele told members of the media on Tuesday that the island has recently turned away passengers on cruise ships and international flights and will continue to do so once their travel history is suspicious. This forms part of government's efforts to heighten its preparedness and strategic plan to keep the island free of COVID-19.
It matters not what people were coming here to do. It's whether they had a travel history from certain hotspots that we will turn them away based on their travel history. If we start digging deeper, there were 2,000 people or 3,000 people that we turned away yesterday on a cruise ship. Are we going to ask each one of them why they came here or what their intentions were or who they plan to speak to? Or are we simply going to assume because they were on a cruise ship they were all here purely to enjoy our beautiful country? If we turned away individuals which we have that came in on American Airlines or came in on British Airways and put them in quarantine, do we ask them why? It's immigration officers' right to, but is that for the public dissemination? Or is it more important that based on their travel history, they were quarantined or they were turned away? And I still stick with that. It matters not, and I didn't ask, and I am not going to ask what you're coming here for. It's where you've been.
Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell said government has to be very practical and thorough when assessing the passengers on ship or plane. He said it is important to not turn away visitors based on the fear of the populace that the virus will be brought to our shores, but based on the facts of their travel history.
One has to be very careful. At the same time, you have all these vendors out there hungry and looking for a livelihood. And they were waiting. Some of them bought stuff for and spent a lot of money and invested in these people coming here. And so one has to be extremely careful if we don't overreact. Because I think a lot of time we might be acting out of fear only, without facts. And I suppose the Ministry of Health and the government as a whole has to act on facts. It must be facts-based, not fear-based. And that's what's happening now around the globe, where people are just fearful and there might be a lot of hysteria, sometimes unnecessary. So, but you know, it's life and death, so you can't really tell people not to be frightened.
Continuing the news, the National Water and Sewage Authority, NWASA, is assuring the general public of the safety of its water supply from its Annandale water system, despite the discovery of a body at the Grenada Lake on Wednesday, March 11th. NWASA assures the population that there are sufficient natural and internal interventions in its supply system between the source and delivery to customers to guarantee the water supply is 100% safe for consumption, even with such discovery. NWASA explains that the Grenada Lake has a capacity of 60 million imperial gallons of water, and though it is utilized by the company as a source of raw water, the actual catchment area is a significant distance from the center of the lake. Water from the Grenada Lake is used to periodically to augment the supply of the Annandale water system when necessary during periods of significant shortfall. Providing further details about the interventions that guarantee the safety of the water for consumption, NWASA explains that the water abstracted from the Grenada Lake is pumped to a nearby stream, then goes through the natural process of stream flow. Subsequently, it flows by gravity feed to the treatment plant, where it undergoes pre-chlorination, sedimentation, and filtration. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Grenada's #1 track and field event is back. The Inter-Secondary School Championships is back at the Carriacou James Athletic Stadium. You must be there. Experience the intense rivalry between athletes of our secondary schools on the track and in the field. Blame yourself if you missed the first ever Republic Bank-sponsored Intercall 2020. Blame yourself if you miss a day of exciting action on the track. Be there every day, day 1, 2, and 3. The 53rd Intercall Championships takes place on March 31st, April 1st, and 2nd, starting at 9 a.m. each day. Come, let's celebrate the inaugural Republic Bank Intercall. Come out families, come out past students, come out school-based supporters for the return of competition on the track and in the field, because Intercall is back.
Welcome back. OECS Director General Dr. Didicus Jules says there is need for a systemic transformation of the education sector in the Caribbean. He was the featured speaker at the 5th Annual Carol Bristol Distinguished Lecture Series at the Grenada Trade Center Annex on the topic, Children Go to School and Learn Well, Challenges with Education in the Caribbean. Dr. Jules explained that there are key strategic guidelines that must be implemented and enforced if Grenada and the rest of the Caribbean want positive results from the sector.
We have tinkered with education in an era that requires nothing less than its transformation. And while we have been tinkering, others have been innovating and leaving us less globally competitive and further behind.
He emphasized the need for more focus to be placed on early childhood development. Dr. Jules said a solid introduction to education at a tender age will forever be etched in the minds of the students.
Early childhood education gap. Early childhood is the big gaping hole in the system. The most important formative stage in the development of the human person is the 0 to 5, and in particular the 0 to 3 age band. It's actually called the critical period hypothesis. It has been demonstrated that the stimulation that occurs at this stage establishes the cognitive potential for life. And it is for this reason that if we are serious about human development in the region, we must make early childhood development a priority.
Transformation will occur when there is more teaching in classrooms than testing.
We need to spend less time on testing and more time on learning at all levels, but especially at elementary levels. From a policy perspective, the preoccupation with testing arises because we've seen the deficiencies, but are applying the wrong solutions to the problem. So where we see problems, we give more testing rather than do more teaching to encourage more learning.
The Marabou Abattoir has been further equipped with health and safety material aimed at ensuring that workers' tasks are carried out more effectively and efficiently. We get more in this report from Karima Lewis.
The staff at the Marabou Abattoir were once again aided by the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture, ICA, as they were the recipients of a number of protective equipment and products.
On behalf of our Director General of ICA, the Agricultural Health and Food Safety Program of the Institute, and our ECS representative based in St. Lucia, and not forgetting our ICA Grenada delegation. Minister, I would like to present this to you on behalf of ICA.
That was ICA's National Specialist, Derek Charles, making an official presentation to the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Yulin Bean Hosford. The handover took place on the grounds of the Marabou Abattoir recently. Minister Bain Hosford says, while ICA's donation comes as no surprise, she is still grateful for the gesture.
ICA is a true friend, as Dr. Cummins said, and ICA has been supporting Grenada for a long, long time. And since I came into the ministry, the amount of support we have had through training and other things, it's really, showing, ICA is showing its true spirit of friendship with Grenada. And we are delighted this morning to get all these things from ICA so that can help you to do your work better. First aid kits, specialized boots, because these boots, they seem to be much thicker because of the work that you have to do. It's not the ordinary boots, and we are happy to have. These are things we don't just get ordinarily. So we are happy this morning, the coats and the gloves and all of the first aid kits, and so we are delighted and we are happy that we have received these things from ICA.
Officer with responsibility for the Marabou Abattoir, Acting Chief Veterinary and Livestock Officer Dr. Kimon Cummings, also expresses his gratitude towards ICA.
ICA is the definition of a true friend. Over the years, ICA has been supportive, very patient with us, with the ministry, and they've been collaborating. And we at the ministry would like to say thank you to ICA for the continuous support. And we're looking forward to working with you as we move forward with 2020 and beyond.
Mr. Charles notes that this donation, which comes on the heels of an occupational health and safety workshop held by ICA in 2019, emphasizes the importance of health and safety in the workplace.
You are the ones we are depending on, and we value the work that you do, and we value you as a person in what you do. And that's why we have purchase this equipment to ensure your safety in the workplace. Safety in the workplace is a very important thing for management of the Ministry of Agriculture and also for ICA.
As ICA continues with its assistance to the Ministry of Agriculture, Charles states that 2020 will be the year where a livestock strategy will be developed for the livestock sector. For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Karima Lewis.
That story just brought the curtains down on the national report for today, Wednesday, March 11th. Let's recap the top story. Carriacou puts plans in place to effectively tackle COVID-19. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.